Stop scrolling. Let's talk about something real, the truth about mental illness that no one dares to say out loud. Every day, millions are silently fighting battles, while society hides behind stigma, myths, and lies. But here's the deal: you deserve answers, not sugarcoating. This isn't just about feeling sad or getting over it. It's about survival, strength, and breaking free from the chains that keep people silent. Today, we're pulling back the curtain, crushing the stereotypes, and exposing what's really happening, because once you know the truth, you gain the power to change your life and conquer the world. The hidden reality: mental illness is not rare. Millions battle it daily, but silence makes it invisible. When we talk about mental illness, people often picture something distant, something that happens to other people. But here's the truth: this isn't rare, this isn't uncommon, and it's not something tucked away in dark corners of the world. Mental illness is everywhere. It's in the friend who always smiles but disappears when the party ends. It's in the co-worker who shows up on time but drags a storm inside their chest. It's in families, classrooms, hospitals, and boardrooms. Millions of people are carrying this invisible weight every single day, and most of the time no one notices. The problem is that silence has made it invisible. We don't talk about it at dinner tables, we don't bring it up in classrooms, and we sure don't see it treated with the same urgency as physical illness. Imagine breaking a bone and being told to just shake it off. Sounds ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly the message so many people with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, or PTSD hear on a daily basis. And while society hides from these conversations, those who suffer are forced to battle alone, carrying a burden that feels heavier because no one acknowledges it. That's why breaking this silence is not optional, it's critical. Because if we can't recognize the hidden reality, we'll never create a future where mental health is taken as seriously as physical health. Myth vs. Science bust the biggest lies. It's just in your head vs. the real biological, psychological, and social roots. One of the biggest problems with how we see mental illness is that it's buried under layers of myths and half-truths. You've probably heard them: it's all in your head, just snap out of it. If you were stronger, you wouldn't feel this way. These aren't just wrong, they're dangerous. Because when we spread myths, we push people further into shame and away from the help they desperately need. Science paints a very different picture. Mental illness isn't about weakness, laziness, or a lack of willpower. It's about the complex interplay of brain chemistry, genetics, environment, and life experiences. Think about it like this: when someone develops diabetes, we don't say, just think your way out of it. When someone breaks a bone, we don't tell them to try harder to walk. Yet somehow, when it comes to mental health, people are still expected to muscle through sheer force of will. The reality is that depression can physically shrink parts of the brain, anxiety can hijack your nervous system and keep your body in a state of fight or flight. PTSD can rewire how you process fear and safety. This is biology, not weakness. This is medical science, not myth. The more we cling to old lies, the more we rob people of the compassion and treatment they deserve. But when we ground the conversation in science, we give people tools, understanding, and hope. Because facts don't just crush stigma, they save lives. Stigma equals silence: how shame and stereotypes prevent people from seeking help, making conditions worse. If there's one thing that keeps mental illness in the shadows, it's stigma. The weight of judgment is heavier than the illness itself for so many people. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone dismiss depression as laziness, or label anxiety as overreacting, or worse, call someone crazy? These words don't just sting, they silence. They make people feel ashamed of something that isn't their fault. And when shame takes over, people stop reaching out, stop talking, and stop seeking the help that could change their lives. Now here's the thing: no one would feel ashamed for having asthma, or high blood pressure, or a broken leg. Yet when it comes to the brain, suddenly there's this cultural pressure to hide it, to lock it up behind closed doors. And that silence doesn't just hurt individuals, it hurts families, communities, and even workplaces. Because untreated mental illness shows up in every corner of life: missed opportunities, strained relationships, lost potential. The irony is that stigma thrives on ignorance. The less we talk about mental illness, the more power these stereotypes have. But the moment we open up, the myths lose their grip. Every conversation that says you're not alone, every story that says I've been there too, chips away at the silence. This is why breaking stigma isn't just about kindness. It's about survival. It's about creating a culture where asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. The body-mind connection mental illness isn't only about thoughts. It affects sleep, immunity, energy, and even lifespan. When most people think about mental illness, they imagine it living only in the mind, locked inside thoughts and emotions. But here's the reality: mental health is not just mental, it's physical, it's in the body. The brain doesn't live in isolation. It's connected to every single system you rely on to stay alive. Anxiety can spike your heart rate, raise your blood pressure, and leave your muscles tense like you've just run a marathon. Depression doesn't just drain your mood, it can sap your energy, disrupt your sleep, weaken your immune system, and even shorten your lifespan. PTSD doesn't stop at flashbacks. It keeps your nervous system on high alert, as if danger is lurking around every corner. These are not invisible scars, they're physiological changes that reshape how your body functions day in and day out. Now imagine ignoring these signs. Pretending mental illness is just in your head is like ignoring chest pain until it becomes a heart attack. The body and the mind are not two separate stories, they're chapters of the same book. And if you only read one, you miss the truth of the whole story. When we finally understand that mental illness impacts the body as much as the brain, everything changes. It shifts how we treat it, how we talk about it, and how we prioritize it in healthcare and in everyday life. Because this isn't just about feeling better, it's about living longer, stronger, healthier lives. The untold struggles: medication, therapy, financial burdens, and relationships. What society never sees. Here's something that rarely gets talked about: the day-to-day struggles that come with living with a mental illness. Most people only see the surface. They see someone functioning, maybe holding down a job, maybe even smiling, and they assume everything is fine. But beneath that surface, there are battles happening that most of us can't see. There's the constant calculation of energy, deciding if getting out of bed, making a meal, or going to work is even possible today. There's the financial strain of paying for therapy, medication, and doctor visits, especially in systems that don't prioritize mental health care. And then there's the emotional weight of relationships: friends who don't understand, family who might dismiss the problem, partners who can't always carry the burden. It's not just about the illness. It's about the ripple effect it creates in every part of life. And here's the hardest part. Even when someone decides to get help, the system itself can be overwhelming. Long wait times for therapy, medications that take trial and error, costs that feel impossible to cover. It's no wonder so many people give up before they even find what works. But acknowledging these struggles matters. It shines a light on what society doesn't see. And it reminds those suffering that their challenges aren't signs of weakness, they're evidence of strength. Because showing up, even in the smallest ways, while carrying that much weight, takes courage most people will never understand. The way forward: breaking stigma, empowering conversations, and steps anyone can take to create change. So after pulling back the curtain on all the truths no one talks about, the real question is, what do we do next? Because awareness is powerful, but awareness without action doesn't change lives. The way forward starts with conversations, and yes, they can be uncomfortable. But every time you ask a friend how they're really doing, every time you choose to listen instead of judge, every time you normalize therapy or medication, you're breaking a piece of the stigma that's been holding people back for generations. We also need to push for real change in the systems around us. That means schools teaching kids that mental health matters just as much as physical education, workplaces offering support instead of punishment when someone struggles, healthcare systems making therapy and treatment as accessible as antibiotics or X-rays. These aren't luxuries, they're necessities. And let's not forget the power of small, personal steps, checking in on your own mental health, building habits that support your mind the same way you'd strengthen your body, reaching out for professional help when you need it without shame, because every person who takes these steps doesn't just heal themselves, they give others permission to do the same. This isn't about fixing everything overnight. It's about momentum, about stacking small changes that lead to a cultural shift. Because the more we talk, the more we act, and the more we prioritize mental health, the less room stigma has to survive. The truth about mental illness is that silence has kept it hidden for far too long. We've unmasked the myths, exposed the stigma, and revealed the struggles no one talks about. But this can't just end here. It's not enough to listen, you have to act. Check in on yourself, check in on others, and keep the conversation alive. Because the more we talk, the more we heal, and the more lives we save. Mental health is not a secret, and it's not a weakness. It's part of being human. The time to break the silence is now.